¿Qué lo que mi gente? So today we're going to be talking a little bit about mental health. There's a lot of different things going on these days, and I just kind of want to explain a few different things about why people are feeling the way that they're feeling, and just want to cover a couple things on what you can possibly do in order to, keep up on your mental health. So with that being said, estoy aquí con un otro video. Vamos a comenzar. Mental health. This is such a broad subject because mental health can rely on so many different things that not everyone may be experiencing at the same time. For example, a lot that goes into your mental health could be super reliant on your family being either there for you or not there for you, the support that people kind of expect from family that they may not be getting, or they're getting it, but they're seeking, certain support in other areas when, whatever support you actually get is important. Support, regardless on if this is where you want to get it from or not, support is support. You have to kind of capitalize and take advantage of the support that you are getting, because we do need that. We do need support from others in order for us to kind of move, and it doesn't make or break your success in any type of way. It's just, if it's there, it's needed. It's something that you can keep using for your motivation, your drive, and whatever else that you need in order to keep moving forward in your life. Mental health also relies a lot on your job situation. There are some people who either can't stand a job that they work, or that they don't have employment at all, which in this situation here in these days and time, or more recently, people have been really losing their jobs and stuff like that due to businesses having to close down due to the circumstances of COVID-19. And that's super unfortunate. And, I really, really hope that people are able to get employment again, or have the luxury of their current or their previous employer hiring them back so that they can continue on whatever journey that they were doing at that particular employment. But that's not to look at the situation in a bad way completely, because sometimes what happens is when a person loses their job, other opportunities come about that you didn't particularly have time to even explore. And I really want people to look at, the situation in many different ways before you determine how you ultimately feel about something. But before I go into what we should be doing or kind of practicing, I want to just move on to the next thing that influences your mental health. So, mental health also has a lot to do with the food that you ingest. When we don't get the right balance of nutrients and just choices in our meals that we actually require, our body needs and access for all the time, then that can cause a chemical imbalance in your brain. And when it comes to your mental health, it can really, really take a toll on your mental health due to the fact that your body is so deficient in the things that you actually really, really need. And a lot of times people don't know what exactly they need. They're not 100% sure what their diet is lacking, or anything of that nature. However, the internet is a powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. I feel like in some cases it's super underutilized. And this is something that we should be looking at. Like, don't just look on, like, when you look online, obviously you don't want to just look into one source and then be like, oh, okay, so that's it. No, you want to look into multiple things so that you can understand, like, okay, when I put all of these things together, because basically the way that I do research is I'll look up at most maybe 4 or 5 things just to see the consistency in which people are saying about a particular thing that I'm looking up. Because then, although I'm not 100% sure if this is a reliable source, this is a reliable source, or that's a reliable source, if we're all boiling down to the same idea, the same concept, then I can be a little more certain at the research that I've done to come to a full conclusion on how I want to actually conduct myself in that situation. Because what happens is when you look up one source, that person or the party in which disclosed the information that you're looking up may be misinformed themselves. So you want to really look into multiple resources in order to find your own personal conclusion. And that's what a lot of people do. That's what a lot of people should do when they're researching things, because it's kind of like you look online, there's a lot of things online. You don't want to just rely on that one thing to determine everything about your next decision. So look online if you don't already have the information that you need as far as, okay, what am I missing in my diet? If we need say for instance, if we need 6 things, now you're sure about maybe 2 things out of those 6 things. And the other 4 things, you're kind of like, okay, how do I incorporate that? How do I get that? What is my taste preference? And is there any alternatives to what it is that I actually need? Because, say for instance, if you're a person who needs iron in their diet, and maybe something that has iron in it, like spinach or something like that, is not your forte, then now you look for other things that have iron in it that you may want to eat. Because ultimately, setting aside all of the supplements that people can possibly use that are available, getting your vitamins and minerals and everything that your body needs from natural food is the best source, because it's not processed in any type of way. They didn't have to shrink it down into a little pill, or they didn't have to do anything in addition to you just getting it straight. So when you eat different fruits and vegetables, this is something that you're getting the most of whatever that vitamin is that you need from. No supplement or anything of the sort is going to give it to you better than it being completely natural. Something perishable, because if it's perishable, then it's kind of like, okay, this is fresh, versus it has a shelf life of 2-3 years.
That's emergency food.
When it comes to what your body actually needs now and what your body is asking for on a constant basis in order for you to be in tip-top shape, your immune system to be as high as it possibly can be to fight off whatever it is that you come in account with, natural or not to say organic, because what's organic? If they put an organic sign on something, that it doesn't even mean that it's organic.
It has organic things that's associated with it, but it's not completely organic. But that's a completely different story altogether.
But what I'm saying is things that are natural. You want to get your vitamins and stuff like that from, your nutrients and stuff like that from those things versus a supplement. Now, yes, if something is not available, maybe is out of season, maybe is, just not of good quality, you want to ultimately use a supplement. But as soon as you get access to something that's natural, you want to use that instead. Supplements is like, yes, I didn't get a chance to have, you know, my something incorporated into my breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I'm going to take a supplement because I feel like I'm kind of deficient in that or whatever, and it's not really available to me like that. That's when it's great to take a supplement, because then now you're not depriving yourself of something and you're at least getting some form of it. You're not getting the best quality of it, but you are getting some form of it, which is just as important or more important than not getting it at all. So when it comes to food, definitely it plays a big part in your mental health. So that right there has to be taken into consideration, because it could be, I mean, we can handle a lot, and some more than others, but we can handle a lot. And at the end of the day, when certain things are imbalanced, you're really not giving yourself a fighting chance when it comes to your mental health. We go through so many different things, and life is happening all the time. But when you don't have that right diet going on, then you're kind of helping whatever life is doing already. You're kind of helping take yourself out, just to put it in a nutshell. Like you're contributing
to your demise
when you're not incorporating these things in your diet. And a lot of times people say things like,
oh, it's so expensive to be healthy, da 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 da.
No, it's expensive to be vegan. It's expensive to be a vegetarian, because you want to get the highest quality of these things, being as though you have to substitute all of that stuff with, all of the things that you would eat to get protein, to get this, to get that in higher dosages without the bulk, or whatever the case is, good quality. That's when it could become expensive. But there are still, even with being vegan, even with being vegetarian, there's still corners that can be cut in order to still get what you need and not have to spend as much. You become smarter about how you're storing your food. What are you doing? Are you freezing are you freezing this? Are you freezing that? Like, how are you extending on the longevity of your food, your natural food that has an expiration date, that is perishable, So, but before I get into all of the other details, I also want to incorporate your environment. Now, your environment can play a lot of roles in what exactly does that mean. So when I say your environment, I mean the place in which you live. Like when you look around, what do you see? Do you see a mess? Do you see clutter? Do you see
hoarderism? I don't even know if that's a real word.
But, I'm going to say hoarderism, because sometimes people just buy up a bunch of stuff, or and it's not even really just buying it. It's accepting things that people give you. Like a person
said, oh, you need this? It's like, no, I don't really need it, but I'm going to take it anyway.
Why are you doing that? Like, stop taking other people's junk. Stop buying up a bunch of things that are not absolutely necessary in your life, because what happens is your mind, you're brainwashing yourself into thinking that you need this stuff, and then you can't even walk a straight line in your house because you're a hoarder. A cluttered house equals a cluttered mind, and your mental health relies solely on what it's seeing all the time. The eyes is the window. Your eyes are the actual window. So when you are seeing a bunch of clutter, that's what your mind is seeing. That's what your mind has to process on a constant basis. It was times where I've been in environments to where the cleanest, most secluded place in there was the bathroom. That was declared my safe haven. That was declared my, my mental, balance space. Meditation or whatever. You could do meditation in the middle of a disgusting floor, and then as soon as you open your eyes, it's like
depression again. Like, not that I suffer from depression.
It's a very depressing visual. Your visualization, this is how we learn. This is how we process and absorb most of the information that we receive. Because if you can't see it, now you have to rely on a different sense. Like people who can't see because they lost their vision or they were born without vision. Their senses and how they see is different now. But when you have the ability to actually see, there's many different things that can have a great influence on your mental health. Your environment is very, very important. And then not to mention the environment in which you are associating yourself with dealing with people. Because people in your environment, in your circle, in whatever it is that, however you want to phrase it, people have a very, very big influence on your mental health. Because what people tell you, what people say to you, the attitude in which people have while they're around you. Because think about it, like, I know there are many people who have experienced like maybe a family member or a friend or somebody you care about. Because if you care about the person, it's going to affect you. If you don't care, it really doesn't make a difference at all anyway. I mean, it makes somewhat of a difference because you noticed it, but it doesn't affect you on such a broad level. So I know that there are people out there who have had times where they walked into a room and the vibe there was just so completely off. Like,
You don't know what's going on, but you know something's going on. And it may or may not have anything to do with you.
but at the end of the day, it puts you in that mind space where you're like, should I ask? Because if I don't ask, I'm just going to be in limbo this whole time and not really knowing what's going on. And then just because you ask doesn't mean the person's going to be truthful to you either. Because it's been plenty of times where I've asked people like,
Is everything okay? And they like, yeah, I'm good. I don't believe you.
I don't. I just feel like it was some type of texture on the end of that, and I don't believe you.
and it's times where people will say like, oh yeah, I'm great. I'm completely good. I still don't believe you. I don't. Because, like if you know the person, then you kind of know what their characteristics are on some level. And depending on how they respond to something or how they're like kind of passive about things or whatever, you know that person's personality. So that's only going to tell you like, okay, maybe I'll buy it for now, but we'll see. I'll wait and observe things because that's me. I'm a person. If a person says something to me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, or whatever. But I'm more of a person that goes according to what you're showing me, not really what you're saying. Until proven different, I only go according to what people do because what people do is showing enough. That's telling you enough. Just for them to say something, because a person like in relationships or whatever, if a person says,
Oh, babe, I love you so much. Da 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 da. You're my everything. You're my world. Mi corazón.
a person could go through that whole spill, but then later on, because I mean, it feels good when a person's telling you that, like, oh wow, da da da, this person loves me, and then what they're showing you in their actions is completely different. You know what I'm saying? Like the times when y'all not around each other and you call a person, they don't pick up the phone. They're not like letting you know like, oh, everything's good. You know where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with and stuff like that. And yes, it does seem very excessive when you're in a relationship because it's like, I don't want to feel like I'm reporting to this person or whatever the case is. But in your mind, it's your responsibility to make sure that this person knows that you're okay, know where you are, because if something was to happen to you, somebody needs to know. Some people, like I grew up in around people who felt like they don't want to tell people what's going on with them because they grown. And it's like, it don't really matter how grown you are. Somebody has to know what's going on with you, like that you're okay. Because if something were to happen, God forbid, some person, at least one person needs to know that, okay, he or she was here last time we spoke. That was about approximately 45 minutes ago, or that was like an hour ago. A person could be in the same location for more than an hour. However, it's like you want to give something because you could have got kidnapped or whatever. It's grown people getting kidnapped. So you're not obsolete because you're a grown up, or you're not obsolete because you're a grown man. You can get kidnapped.
You can be tricked because, people, they going to put up a fight, but you can be tricked. And a person can be like, oh, it's in there, or whatever like that. Slam the door and lock it. And it's like, all right, so you're my prisoner.
I mean, that's super dramatic, but it's realistic. It's still possible for things like that to happen. But I digress because, I go way crazy.
I'm talking about kidnappings.
So anyway, what I'm trying to say is your mental health has a lot to do with your environment. You have to make sure that you're protecting wherever your environment is. If you're in an environment that you don't really have control over, you have to be completely sure, like, okay, is this somewhere I want to be? Because a lot of things that are happening in your environment can be very influential on you. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that, if something happened, you're like, oh, okay, this is what it is. No, what happens is what you see is super crucial on your perception. Your perception is something that is a very fragile thing because your perception determines what your decisions are going to be later on. And it could be days and days and days that go by or whatever the case is. And then when you're kind of fitting the criteria of certain characteristics, in your mind, you think is an original thought, but the environment in which you were in previously had influence on what your thought patterns is right now. When people tell you like certain stories, because some people are empaths. So when a person is telling you something, you're kind of living it, or at least you're creating this picture in your mind that tells you that pretty much illustrates the story in which you're being told. And when you're an empath, if a person tells you like a really bad story or something like that, not a bad story, but like, something that affected them on an emotional level or whatever the case is. Sometimes people are like,
oh my God, that is so sad.
And they may even cry about it. Or if a person tells you something funny, you're laughing hysterically because you found it so funny because it was a funny story, or if it was something that was particularly funny. And depending on if you're a person who has dark humor, it might not even be funny to the average person. However, you're laughing. I'm kind of like that, but I try to have control over it because I don't want to be judged. I don't care about a lot of different things, but it's like when you prejudge me, then it kind of like bothers me, because I
have a lot to offer as a person and a human being who is contributing to society.
But anyway, I digress. The influence on your environment and the influence on different things that you perceive have a lot to do with the things that you do, either soon after or, in the future when it comes to different decisions and stuff like that. So I say this. I wanted to bring up this mental health thing because at the end of the day, I feel like we as human beings make things so super complicated, and most things are very, very simple. We just complicate it because we just need, for some reason, to have extra stimuli. Like, oh, if I can respond to this in a nice way, but I'd rather put a little attitude on it just to give it some pizzazz, just to give it a little bit of fire or something like that. This is how humans think. This is how we think. We think like, oh, okay, I mean, I could be laid back about it, or I could turn up. Most times people want to turn up because it's just exciting. It's exciting. It boosts their adrenaline and it excites other people. It boosts other people's adrenaline. This is why World Star exists. Like, think about it. Like, people are watching other people beat the hell out of each other. Like, it's just literally beat the hell out of each other. And it wasn't an intended thing for a person to be like, oh, okay, like,
so what we doing today?
It happens, but people find entertainment out of that. And it's something that's very influential on your perception, very influential on your mental health. Mental health is not something to be played with because it's super, super important on decisions that you make. This is why you have successful people and you have people who have absolutely no clue. That's really what it boils down to, because how you look at things plays a very big part on how you act. It's just really what it is, like peer pressure. It's not in your character to do certain things, but your friends is doing it. So you're like, well, I guess I got to do it. No, you don't. You really don't. You have the complete full power of your own decisions. And when you are sifting out and weaning out who is your friends and who's not your friends, these are people that are going to accept you for you. If you don't want to participate in certain things that your friends are doing, that doesn't mean like, okay, well, we can't be friends because, we ain't got nothing in common. You're not down with the get down. Like, no, it's not like your friends are going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess, well, we'll see you when we're done. And it's like, okay, cool. Still friends. And that message right there is really mainly for like, adolescents and teenagers and stuff like that. Like that was for them, or that's for y'all, because at the end of the day, like, look, you're an amazing person, and you know how amazing you are, but not all people can get that from you, and it's just not, I mean, it's not something that is completely available when it comes to how most people would see you. Like if you're a person who wants more out of life, you're going to be hated by people. If you're a person who's not going to make anything of yourself, you're going to be hated by people. You don't get a pass. You don't actually, you're not obsolete from any of these things. Like you're going to have haters regardless on which direction you want to go in. So to go in the right direction, why not? I'm going to be hated regardless on whatever direction I decide to choose. Whatever path I decide, I'm still going to be hated. So why not just go the right way to where, it's going to be more beneficial to me versus anything else. Some people, they like to see you in a bad place and they're like, well, if I can hang out with this person and keep them right here, I'm going to hang out with this person. I'm going to be right there by your side. And I'm going to keep you where you are right now. I do not want you growing past me. Why? I didn't make anything of myself. Why are you trying to make something of yourself? You look stupid. Like, that's how people think. And you have to show them differently. If people don't want to come with you, they will get left behind. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if they get left behind, because that means that's where they wanted to be. But you have the options to do something different. Do something very, very different. Protect your mental health, because your mental health is going to determine a lot of different things. We make excuses for things because we don't fully understand why it's happening. But I'm telling you right now why it's happening. I'm telling you that it's happening because of your influences. Keep a good mind of your family has a lot to do with that. Your job, your employment has a lot to do with that, or your lack of employment has a lot to do with that. The foods that you eat really have a lot to do with that, because when you have imbalance there, it's kind of like a lot of things that you would like to be done a different type of way is not going to be done that way, because you're not even equipped